Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Incubator. This is actually episode 8, which means we've been doing this for 2 straight months. We haven't even missed a week. I'm so proud of us and our consistency. I can't even stand it. We have a full team today, although somebody just left. Who just left? Tom did. But we have a full team today. I'm going to just go down across the bottom and say who's here. So wave when I call your name, sort of like we're in school. Annette Zinke, whose picture just went to her thing, so she can't wave. Then there's Brett Carpenter and Christine Bailey, Dan Beach, Trish Rensink, Wei Yule, and then, of course, I'm on the big screen because I'm talking right now. So today we're going to talk about the sins of the startup. I think when people start startups, they have this sort of vision of what it's going to look like. And as coaches to startups, we see a lot of paths that people go down that maybe they shouldn't. So I actually asked the team to come up with a few of the sins that they've noticed consistently among some of the startups that they coached. And then towards the end of our half hour, I am going to do a little lightning round, and I have like some topics. And while I'm going to say this now, I'll probably have to remind everybody there is no, well, it depends answer. You're going to have to take a side. It's going to have to be a sin or a win. So, but let's get started with some sins that you guys have noticed among the startups that you're coaching. Who wants to go first? And no duplicate answers either, by the way. So it would pay to go first.
In that case, I'll go first. I'll choose one that probably everybody has already picked, but it's being underfunded. It's I don't know if it's the #1 reason, but it's certainly probably in the top 3 to 5 for the failure of small businesses. People grossly underestimate how much it's going to take to get started. But more than that, they have too rosy a picture on how much money they're going to make. Sales are almost always inflated, and what have you.
How do you coach around that, around getting a realistic picture of the money?
Well, we have a financial model we use here at SBDC and NACET. So that really helps them kind of think about as well as have to put a dollar value to them and add them up. And it also forces them to make some sales projections. And they quickly realize that, their business is either realistic or not realistic on those numbers. And I think at the end of the day, it just really comes down to having the discipline to sit down and write down numbers and all the different categories and things that money will be spent. That's what a lot of people don't do.
Okay. Who wants to go next? Anybody have anything to say on that?
No customers. I think it's almost a bigger, it's no market. It's like creating a product or starting a service that really nobody wants. There was a survey that I saw that basically, actually 2 of them, that said that, one said 43%, one said 49% of entrepreneurs, new businesses starting have no market, have no marketplace, don't know what the heck they're, who they're shooting for.
And how do you talk?
That note,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to add to that, no market or falling in love with your own product, so that you're the only market for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but don't we advise people to fall in love with their product?
No.
Well, maybe not fall in love with their product, but they have to sort of be that's how ideas come. Like, you're the initial customer.
No, I
It's
disagree.
really about being passionate about the business.
I don't.
Not about the product.
Oh, wait, old model.
Of more than the product.
Quentin just joined us and apparently doesn't have video, but I heard the over talking.
Okay, that was a little confusing, so let's take a step back. So Trish, you were saying?
I said we encourage them to be passionate about their business, not about their product. And a business is far bigger than the actual product.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
good point.
Yes.
And the next question you're going to ask is how do we coach around that? And I think there's a couple of tools that we use. We've got an idea validator that makes them look at who their customers are and what problem they're solving and why. And then I think also we just Business Canvas and the Value Proposition Canvas both are great tools for analyzing the product and determining whether there's a market for that product.
And we have another class coming up, so a new program, Reality Check Your Startup, that helps you validate those assumptions too.
Yes, and that is on June 28th and June 29th, and people can see a link to that event page on the innovationsincubator.com site, just so you know. It's being held down in Chandler, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Arizona.
Piloted in Chandler. We'll run it in Flagstaff in August.
Perfect. Okay, who next in?
I'll go next because I think mine piggyback on the being in love with the product, and that is focusing on the what versus focusing on the why.
Oh, that's a good one.
If you follow Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle and asking why over and over again, if you don't have a clear purpose and why for your business, then you have no value proposition and you have no market. So focusing on the why, that goes back to being in love with your product.
So let me ask you guys a question. How many people come to you with either businesses that are in process or ideas and don't have a clear why? Is it a lot?
Lots.
Yeah. And it's funny. Yeah, it's funny because I think that, I know Tom and I dig pretty deeply into the why, and that conversation comes at different points in the relationship. Usually when we come to a roadblock, but I think that they have a why. They just haven't necessarily connected with it. And so I think part of our job in the incubation process is to help them kind of identify their why and connect with their why. And if they don't have a good one, to really get clear about that.
That's a really good point. And Trish, just because you were so good about all of your sins, will you show your piece of paper with all of your sins listed?
Well, I just did a brainstorm for a few minutes to.
So that's a lot of sins, you guys.
Came up with.
You have to share that. You have to share that, Trish.
We should turn that into a blog post.
Yes.
That's what we should do. Okay, who wants to do the next sin? I'm pointing down over on this end of the
I know.
channel.
I have to think.
Okay, Brett.
Yeah, a lot of mine are getting taken here. So
I told you to go first.
Yeah, I know. Well, what I would say is that I think the opposite. Sometimes we have with some startups. Some people absolutely, fall in love with what their product is and things like that, and they don't notice their customer. But sometimes we have a really half-hearted effort that can really be a sin too. That, well, I'm going to kind of do it. I'm going to kind of work on it, but they don't really go all in. And there's that balance between really, being all in but not being obstinate. And so I think that, there's a balance to be found, but often we'll see sometimes that they just not all in on it either.
And that's how do you coach to that? Because I don't think that's something you can really coach to. They are either in, right, or they're not 100% committed. I think that's a hard thing to really sort of attack.
Well, it is if they've got another job or they're trying to do it on the side and things like that. So it is a balance, but there's a point. If you're really going to do the startup and it's really going to be something that works for you, you got to go all in and still listen to people, but be all in, I guess would be the best way of saying it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I believe that strongly as well. Okay.
So I'll go next.
Okay.
So one of the biggest things, so kind of in alignment with what Trish had said, was the idea that it's they're building a business, not just a product and not just a solution. And so the understanding that they're creating something larger than themselves and that that is not just their piece. So often entrepreneurs come to a business idea or business concept based on their area of expertise. So, for instance, that might be a software engineer, and so they're looking at building a software. And while the product is a piece of the business, it's not the entire business itself. And so, I think one of the biggest sins is ignoring sales and marketing, ignoring operations, ignoring the strategy and vision and the importance of that, and not recognizing that those pieces are just as important to build out because they become the vehicle through which you deliver your product to your customers.
And at what point does that happen? Because don't they have to have some of the foundation laid before they can really see that their piece is just a part of it and that they have to add all of this other stuff into it?
Well, I think that comes from, like, if you think about the program that we're doing and what Annette was saying, you reality check your startup, identifying and validating your assumptions. You know, what are your assumptions about your business, about your market before you create an MVP, your minimum viable product, or even a prototype? Do you know who you're creating it for and what problem you're solving for? And there's a lot of pre-work that can be done while you're in that solving a problem phase that needs to be addressed, and that does become the foundation from which you build your business. So knowing who your market is, who your customers are, how you're going to deliver the solution to them and how that works, it becomes part of that foundation, and that's even before you get to product, so before you actually build it out.
So I have a question for everybody. Dan and I were actually having a conversation about this a little earlier, how I think sometimes, because we're in the business of coaching people, that even sometimes we make assumptions about things that maybe we shouldn't. Like, we think we know what somebody needs, and while we might be right, they might not know they need it, right? So how often in our day does that happen? I'm just curious. I think it happens for me a lot, and I'm trying to be really good about testing the things that I assume.
Right.
What about you guys?
Well, I'll jump in. I find that quite a bit, and I can remind myself of all the businesses that I would have never invested in, or those that I have that have gone opposite directions, or just look up and down the street in the store that sells socks. That's never going to work. I heard an investor was asked a question once in a presentation about things he passed on, and he said, well, I knew nobody could sell books online and make it, and nobody was going to get $5 for a cup of coffee. And those have been great reminders that even the most intelligent people, you have to step back. And so I try to remind myself when I get a little too cocky, you know, plus I work with all of you and you keep me in check.
Hey, Kim, I just want to remind you to unmute Quentin if you can so he can join in.
I didn't mute him.
Oh, okay.
He muted himself?
Yeah,
Okay.
I muted myself. Sorry about that.
Okay. I'm like, I didn't do it, I swear.
You're a giant Q, Quentin.
I
Yes.
am the Q.
It's the talking Q. I love it.
But I wanted to bounce back to something that Christine had raised, and she talked about a solution. And a different sin is not knowing the pain you're addressing. We see a lot of entrepreneurs, especially on the innovative side and technology, come in with this great new cool thing, but when you ask, well, what problem is it solving, who has it, and how big is it, you get the answer, but look how cool it is.
Right.
And so that's an issue.
Or do you find that people misidentify the pain?
Yeah, I actually think
Yeah.
that's a big problem. And so, again, not that this is one giant commercial for reality check your startup, but that's half of it. It's appropriately connecting your solution to the problem you're solving and making sure that it actually legitimately solves a problem for the people who feel the pain and who are willing to pay money to cure the pain.
Right.
Huge mismatch in the beginning of most businesses. You don't, even if you feel the pain, you're not the only person that feels the pain, or you don't have a market. You have a great thing you made for yourself.
It's closely associated with trying to identify the target market. That's another issue as well, is most people will come in and say, who wants this product or service? And they say, well, everybody. You know,
Right.
no, that's not true.
That's the biggest sin.
Is that the biggest sin? We might have to go. We might have to vote on the biggest sin later. But yeah, that's my. I mean, and it happens in all phases of business because you can talk to. It's if you look at your business, your target market affects every part of it, and if you are targeting everyone, you're so mismatched along the way. It's not. Yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty big sin.
So Kim, you bring up a really good point, the whole idea of your target market, and I think one of the biggest sins I've seen in startups is not recognizing how important the marketing concepts are to your business at the very beginning. Because a lot of times what happens is they don't think about marketing until they're ready to sell. And unfortunately, marketing is what drives connections with your customers, knowing who your customers are, all of that market research, surveying them in advance, understanding pricing. All of that is marketing concepts. And so I think that's one of the big sins I've seen.
That's interesting, because in any type of information gathering you go after, it comes with an element of marketing. You have to sell people on the fact that you need to gather information.
Right.
And people just don't look at it that way. So Annette, you've been strangely quiet on your sin.
No, I mean, one of the first things I said was falling in love with the solution, your product, instead of the problem.
Oh, that's right.
And
I'm
if
sorry.
you want me to come up with a different one, I'm sure I could come up with another one.
No, that's fine. I thought that was piggybacking on another one, but I'll totally give you credit for that.
I don't. Oh, and Kim, you had asked about how do we keep from letting our own assumptions get in the way. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times what I try to do when as I'm giving recommendations or insight or advice is to remind them, what does your gut say? What do you feel is right? Because in the end, there's a reason you're being called to do this. And you may know things that we don't necessarily know. And so
that's so good.
Yeah. So
and it's funny because Dan and I have been on several hangouts over the last 2 days. So we were talking about this too, that, I have a lot of marketing advice. I market, but I also have to remind everybody that, my advice comes from the things that I've tested and tried and see with the people that I work with, and that it may or may not be the same. And I always try to position my advice as it's a starting point if you don't know where to start, but you can't take my advice as a golden rule all the time, because I think one of the biggest sins of startups is they don't do enough testing. Testing of their ideas, of their verbiage, of their strategies, of all sorts of things, because I think there is no right or wrong way. I think we're trying to find the best way to do things, and that comes from trying out different things and see what sticks or what takes hold.
Can I make a comment on that, though?
Yeah.
While I agree that we don't do enough experimentation, and specifically I would say experimentation as opposed to testing, so that you know what you're trying to figure out from the experiment.
Right.
I also think that if I had to pick a new sin, if you don't like my first one, I think one of the biggest sins of startups is freezing, not taking action quickly enough, waiting for something to be perfect, better, when just getting it done or out there is it's the whole concept of minimum viable product. Will somebody pay you to make one small improvement to them or not? I mean, it's the ultimate test. Can you get somebody to pay you or not?
But in a sense, that's a form of testing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
but I think that it's also taking action instead of just waiting for something.
Talking about it.
Waiting for more information. It's not just testing.
Well, people don't want to test. They want to implement the one thing that's going to work, which is what freezes them. Whereas if they approach it as an experiment,
right,
then it's easier to take that action initially.
So if I could piggyback on this with one of the other sins that I identified, and that is not being customer focused.
Mm-hmm.
So I really try to encourage my clients to build customer-centric businesses.
I like that.
If you are not focused on the customer, you will not be in business very long. So when you talk about doing the market research, when you talk about being in love with the product, all of those things, it's like if you can build into your coaching of the client as well as asking the entrepreneur to build into their daily assessment. Is this really customer centric? Are the decisions I'm making customer centric? Are the actions I'm taking customer centric? Am I finding out? How well do I know my customer?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, Trish, because the other thing too that I've noticed is that entrepreneurs don't always look at their customers as their partner. As in, we are solving this problem together. I need your feedback. I need your input. I need your interest. I need your dollars to make this work. And I think sometimes our entrepreneurs think about the customer as the adversary, as in they don't know what they don't know. They need this. Instead of it really being a partnership and an agreement. I'm going to create something that you're willing to pay for because it's going to help you, and you agree it'll help you. So yeah.
Yeah, and I want to plus one what Trish said as well, because I think many of the earlier sins we talked about come back to that. So if we're going to vote for a biggest sin, I'm going to vote for that one now, because I think that is absolutely critical. But I will throw up another one that's internal looking for companies. Tends to happen more with younger entrepreneurs, and that is as you build your team, you surround yourself with your friends, and you don't take into consideration the skills and expertise needed to build your business.
Yeah.
Friends, yes men over someone who's really going to help you challenge you and challenge your business and your assumptions. Yep.
Although, just to be contrary about that, I agree. Definitely need people who will challenge you. But you should also really like working with them. I mean, you spend more time with your coworkers than you spend with most other people. Can you find likable people who disagree with you? I think all of you are likable people who disagree with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right.
You're wrong.
No.
I disagree.
So off base.
It's okay to hate them. As long as they're smart.
But it's interesting you bring that up, Annette, the contrary, because we talked about something earlier where we're talking about not testing and freezing. Well, the complete opposite of that is also a problem. Running to market without any research. So there's that middle ground that needs to be found in so many of these discussions.
Right.
Absolutely.
Is it okay if I mention one, or?
Yes, of course.
We don't have video.
First of all, welcome, Quentin. We can't see you, Quentin, but welcome to the team. We're happy to have you here.
No image is a sin, though.
Okay, can you see me?
No.
You.
But you can talk.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
There you are.
Hi. Welcome to the team.
Oh, there it is.
Here, let me try
there
this.
you are.
There you are.
So, what's your sin? Wait.
Oh, we lost you.
Oh, no.
No,
The sin is
no, it's okay. Can you see me?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So, what's your sin?
Okay. So I guess it's what I hear is a lack of preparation when they're doing, when they're about to begin. The type of people that they have, knowing the skill sets that they need to go through, knowing if this is an actual viable product or is actually solving something, or it's more than just an idea. The thing that I run into commonly is people coming from an employee to an employer mindset is struggling for them. And they don't really know they're still looking for somebody to tell them what to do. They're still looking for someone or some, like, okay, they just expect like all the tools to be there and to not just be the creator and be the source of all of it. And I know many times people, you know, more so with millennials than anything, but, you know, you'll see the younger people be like, I have an idea, pay me. And then you see
I think that happens with some of the older ones too.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then,
we
you
get
know,
that with everybody, not just millennials.
yeah. And then I see some of the older ones, or maybe all over, you know, they're like, I have this idea and I've done 23,000 hours worth of work and I'm still not ready yet. Right. And
Yeah.
so you have that, you know, and both of those are different ways of like, and I visualize it as an employee mindset where, you know, you're bringing something to some boss, some imaginary boss somewhere, and he is going to find it amazing. And then they're going to just give you all the tools to run with it and build it. Well, that's not the case. And a lot of times that I see them shoot themselves in the foot is they cut off their job instead of converting their job into a revenue producing resource to help them build what they need to do. And then they run into little to no bandwidth, no resources, no money. They're out there trying to find money from wherever when they're very well equipped and smart to produce, you know, the resources needed to bring their passions forward. So they're not converting the mentality of a job to a resource. They're still they're still trying to create within this different mental. So I see that being one of the things that just contributes to all of the things that you guys are talking about.
That's a really, really good point.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Hey, another one that I, you know, just in bringing this all up, in tagging on to what Quentin said, which I thought was really great, you know, that underpreparedness or that mindset of not being ready or expecting somebody else to do something for them, it really takes effect when you start talking numbers with people. When you say, hey, do you understand, you know, what your overhead's going to be? What is it going to take to get it delivered? And they literally look at you like you're absolutely insane for asking these questions.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
No, what do you mean I need to know my numbers? What somebody else is supposed to do that?
All you have to do is watch Shark Tank to know that's true.
Yeah.
So that brings me to one of the things I was thinking about earlier, and that is not understanding the how. And Tom, that's one of your favorites, I know, is what is the how? So you have this idea, you have this thing, you have this vision, but how are you going to make it happen? And I think, you know, to go back to what Quentin said, I think the mindset is essential, and we're actually running a pilot program about that. It's not just about, you know, your identity as the CEO, as the leader of your company. You're creating something bigger than yourself, and it takes a change in your habits and your attitudes to step into that leadership role, and not to recognize that that is a journey and a process for every new entrepreneur, no matter where you are. Actually, for any entrepreneur, as you step up the ladder and growth of your company, not to recognize that it does yourself a huge disservice. It's a personal growth journey as much as it's a business growth journey.
I have a feeling we can do like 15 episodes on this in startups.
I think you're right.
So, but I do want to do this lightning round because I'm so excited by it. And you guys all have your win papers, right? Win and sin.
Wait. I have one more.
Okay.
One more that needs to be mentioned.
Okay.
Biggest sin is they don't have a business coach or an advisor.
Fair enough.
Woo-hoo. That's a good one.
That's good.
Way to plug NACET.
Way to plug us.
Okay. Are you guys ready with your win and sins?
I am ready.
Okay. Being first. Is it a win or a sin?
Being first?
Yep, being first.
First to market, your turn.
First to market. Win.
Yep. These are just, you have to pick a side. Partnerships. Looking for a partner. Win. Motivated by money.
Only? Sin.
Only?
I disagree. It's a win.
Playing by the rules.
Say it again.
Playing by the rules.
You have to know what they are so you can know how to break them.
Going into debt.
Ooh, it
Maybe.
Pick a
depends.
side.
I like
Nope.
maybe.
Depends is not an answer. That is a product for the elderly jet-setted people.
Going into debt is making you go all in.
Yeah, that is. That's true. That's all
That's
in.
true.
That's all in.
Okay, on that, keeping your day job.
You got to get rid of the safety net.
For how long?
Yeah.
Future focused. Execution focused.
When
Can I put up two W's?
Sure, if you'd like. Being better.
What did you say?
Being better
how about being the best?
or being the best. Colluding.
What is that? What do you mean
Yeah.
by colluding?
Yeah, what do you mean by colluding?
Illegally
Yeah.
price fixing? Bad.
That would be sin.
Collaborating with other people.
You know, you're colluding with others to get things going. Colluding.
I don't know. Collusion is
Colluding
usually
has a
negative.
very
Collaborating.
Yeah, I gotta pick
collaborating
another
is a
word.
win. Colluding
Yeah.
is a sin.
I'll vote for win.
Multitasking.
Sin.
Thank you guys for that. I appreciate that.
You've taught us, Kim.
Optimism.
Oh God, definitely win. You need that. You need that one.
Swimming upstream.
Does
that
it
mean?
makes sense to your business?
You know, swimming upstream. You're going against the grain.
Well,
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Probably. Depends. I mean, it really does. I know
Yeah.
you don't
Well,
like that answer, but
you
guess
can't
what?
swim
We're
upstream just for the
gray
sake.
areas.
No waffling.
No
Waffles will
qualifying.
win.
Staying small.
Oh,
What?
that's a sin.
Staying small.
That's a total sin.
If it's appropriate, I disagree. I think it depends on whether that's a goal or not.
It's a choice.
Side, Annette.
It is.
Choice.
I did. I picked a side.
I disagree.
And that's okay. Because that's what we do really well, apparently, as a team.
Yeah, you have the right to be wrong.
Anyway,
The
I
right to be right.
was trying to do something a little fun and different, so I thought that was fun. And we might have to throw a lightning round into every episode. But
Maybe we could have like a wheel of business problems.
There you go.
oh my God,
We
Wheel
can
of
use
Fortune coming up.
Chris's list. All right.
We
Okay,
should
you guys,
definitely do this thing with a
that
focus on
about
wins.
does it for today. We are a little over time, so thank you for that. But I had a lot of fun. I think this was a really great episode, and maybe I'm going to do a random question draw. I think I'll solicit questions, and then I'll pull out some questions and throw them to you guys next week. What do you think about that?
Sure.
That's a win? That's a win.
Win.
So thank you, guys. I love the big panel. I hope we can, do more of the big panels like this. And
We need
Quentin,
to
we
see
want to see your
Quentin,
face next time.
Yes.
Yeah,
If
once I
we're
get
all
into
here, we have to
Wi-Fi
see
and not
yours.
4G, yeah, I'll be more than happy to.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back again next week for episode 9. Maybe we'll have some surprise questions that we can throw out and try to stump the panel. Oh, let's stump the panel next week. That's what we're going to do.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone. Have a good day.
Let's make an
See you
invitation
later.
to the public for our 2 viewers to send us questions.